Hello and welcome to another O&DR Modurol video, best buying guide for the Jaguar XK8. This is video 163 in our series of XK8 videos. In this video we're going to show you the best way, best being body, engine, suspension, transmission, the way to inspect your car to avoid it being a massive money pit, which they can be, and get your best bang for your buck. Okay, let's get into the detail. Body. I'm going to split this section up into two. I'm going to do the upper body, the shiny bit if you would, and the underbody, i.e. the structural stuff underneath that you don't normally see. Now, before we start, everybody says their car has no rust, but actually they're not looking hard enough. I haven't found an XK8 without rust. I mean, the cars are 20, 25 years old. You're going to find rust somewhere. It's just about managing it and making sure it doesn't get out of hand. Okay, upper body then. You're looking for straight lines, lack of kinks, dents, etc. What you're looking at if you, cost you're looking at if you don't have perfect panels or you have some rust in the panel, you're looking about £250, £300 for paint per panel as a bit of an estimate. So you can imagine it doesn't take many bumps and nicks and rust to start a hefty bill. Okay, upper body then. We're going to have the best way of doing this is actually just have a walk round, get a feel for what the car's like. Are the panel or the sides of the car straight? Is there any big kinks? You're going to have the odd small dent in the door. I think I've got a dent in the door there. I think you can see it just in the middle. I don't see it all the time, but when I do it annoys me. But so panel gaps. You're looking for an even gap each side of where the panels meet. Not quite even on my bonnet actually. Down the doors, you're looking for the panel gaps to be even top and bottom, or approximately. When they have rear end crashes, this panel gap closes up on the back of the door. You'll also get a kink in the middle of the wheel arch, so look out for any sign of that. When we come to the back then, you're looking, here is a rust trap along the bottom here. They generally rust here, all the way around the back of the arch, they also rust. You get the upper part of the sill rusting at the front of it and the rear of the sill. Coming round to the back, where the panels join here, there's also a rust trap round about here. I think I've got a bubble somewhere. If you can see it there, you can see a little bubble there, which I'm managing. On the other side, you've got the same thing. I've got a little bit of rust here, I think, and a little bit of rust there, a little bubbling. This back panel here tends to be a bit of a rust trap. So you can see the upper body generally should be very, very good condition. If you do have any rust, say on your front wings, again, we're looking about £250, £300 a panel to paint each panel, so it soon adds up if you're not careful. So there you go, upper body, look for panel gaps and little spots of rust in those areas. Underbody is really the main area of rust. You can really see most of it inside the wheel arches. If you put the wheel on opposite lock here, we go inside the wheel arch. You can see this area. This is like an aluminium subframe holding the upper wishbone. And behind there, we can see the brake pipe is normally a huge trap for leaves and corrodes very easily there. And it's a major cost item because you can imagine as you've got to take half the front, well, you've got to take the whole front suspension off to get at it. Welding on these Jags is very cheap. It's just the labour to get at it. The old chestnut is actually the underfloor here, which normally rusts out. And then finally, moving to the rear of the vehicle, the next rust spot is under here, under this rear cross member mounting point, just here. This sort of mounting area is a major rust trap. Again, I've tied it up. I need to clean under here actually. Need to get into that. So this area is a major rust trap, is mounting for the rear subframe. Obviously we spoke about rear sills. If you don't catch these, it'll rot the inner and outer sill together, so you can get bubbling on the bottom of the sill here. Okay, there's a major structural point for the suspension under here, where this sort of rear suspension mount meets the body. That is a major rusting point, and actually if we can get a look inside, I can show you there's a double piece of steel that rusts out from the inside. Looking through the wheel, you should be able to see so the inner sort of clearance bit of the body. It's very difficult to get a picture, just so let me try and do it here. Oh, we got it. Yeah, this bit here, you can see the double skin portion there. You need to get a good look at that, because that bubbles out and rusts out. Again, really easy weld repair, but the biggest issue is getting in there, which means you're going to take the rear suspension completely off the vehicle, which is doable. It's just nuts and bolts, but again, it's just labour. If you're doing it yourself, it's not going to cost much. If you get the garage to do it, it's going to be a big bill. So there you go. Body. If you're going to do a lot of the work yourself and you're not too worried about the finish underneath the sill line, you can do it relatively cheaply. Okay, let's move on to engines. Obviously this, the engine in the XK is a 4-litre V8 petrol. I mean, these things will go on for 200,000–300,000 miles without too much fuss, as long as they're maintained. But there is a few sort of issues, particularly with the early cars. The first one we'll talk about is Nikasil. There was the original design of engine had coated bore linings in the aluminium, so there was no steel liners. With the high sulfur content of the petrol in the late 90s, that attacked the Nikasil, and it resulted in low compression. So one of the ways, or one of the symptoms you're going to have, I mean, the chance of getting a Nikasil problem now is remote, because the sulfur issue has gone out of the petrol, is to take a look at your load breather and look if there's massive amounts of oil in there. You're going to get blow-by, a massive amount of blow-by, which will then coat your intake. Obviously the engine relies on oil and the coolant to keep it going, so you need to check the oil level and the colour of the oil, make sure it's not got any water or contaminants in it. Obviously the coolant system is quite sensitive to water pumps. The early ones break down, the impellers. You can, when the engine's cool, take the header cap off and watch the coolant flow. I'm not going to do it now because the engine's been running, to tell that the water pump's actually working. Obviously all these fluids, if they're not sealed correctly in the pipework, you'll get drips on the floor, and you can see leaks very easily. There are two pipes coming off the bottom of the engine here to the oil cooler on the front. They're susceptible to rupture. If you have a leak on the front of the engine, it's either those pipes or the crankshaft front oil seal. There's obviously a crankshaft rear oil seal as well, and the gearbox, so if you get a leak at that end, it could be one of those. The next issue you need to make sure has been done is the tensioners. Early cam chain tensioners or timing chain tensioners were susceptible to failure. You need to make sure that's been done. It's very difficult to tell physically or by listening to the engine if it has an issue. So the only way of really telling is to look to make sure the engine was fitted with it originally, or it's been done by a previous owner and he got documented evidence. If you were to have to replace tensioners, the parts cost I think is £750 to £1,000. Labour similar. It's a big job. When you start the engine up first, you're going to be listening for a rattle off the front of the engine here, looking for smoke at the rear. All things will indicate whether the engine's in good condition and the timing gear needs doing or not. If you were needing to replace an engine, a second-hand unreconditioned engine, you're looking about £600 in the UK at the moment. Obviously the £600 is just for the engine. Obviously to fit it is a lot of labour again, so again a big bill you need to avoid if you can. Third thing then really, with these engines there's a lot of plastic components. It's not such a big issue in the UK, but I know in hotter climates in the US, with the temperature, the plastics degrade quite easily, and you get a lot of plastic failures in particularly the coolant system. You got this sort of manifold, coolant manifold, and the tower. I've actually replaced the tower from plastic to aluminium to try and relieve that issue. So yeah, plastic components you need to look out. When the engine is running, if you do rev it up, you will find the engine move slightly. If it moves excessively, it means the engine mounts on the bottom, the V mounts or the hydraulic mounts, there's a pair each side, are worn out and allowing the engine to move. In this case, each one of those mounts is £50, and they're not easy to get at. You do need a ramp or a way of getting underneath the car to fit them, so potentially a garage job there if you're not well kitted out. Before I finish on the engine then, you can tell a lot about the condition of the engine from the test drive. So as it goes down the road, it should accelerate smoothly, progressively, without any hesitation. There is a message centre at the bottom of the middle dial here that will show you any engine problems. You may get restricted performance come up there, which will need some investigation. Maybe a simple fix, or it may be something more sinister. You quite commonly get low coolant there, or ABS fault, which can be quite simple to fix, or it may be a little bit more tricky. Finally, you could get gearbox fault on there, in which case that's a bit more worrying. All these faults can be read by the Jaguar diagnostic equipment, but it's not typically something you can do at home unless you buy the proper scanner. With the gearbox fault, it can be as simple as a battery low in voltage, or it could be a breakdown of the gearbox. The only way of really finding out is to fully charge your battery to start with and still see if it still reoccurs, and then get the codes read properly. So there you go. The car will tell you a lot about its own condition. Obviously all these engines have an exhaust. If you get under the car you can see the exhaust pipe. You've got a large front centre box there, and the front pipe's going up to the cats. You're looking basically for any blows. You should be able to hear them more than anything. It is a stainless steel system, so you wouldn't normally expect any problem except at the joints. It's not really a big issue. You can see I've put over axle pipes on mine. Most owners replace the back section, as I've done anyway, to release the growl. So but you're looking at I think it's £200 plus for the over axle pipes, and then the rear boxes, which I've also done. A lot of people replace them with straight pipes. Straight pipes is going to cost you again another £200 plus the tips, the exhaust tips. I've got Romulus Remus on mine, but there you go. Suspension then, obviously it doesn't look like I'm going to view much suspension from here, but it's really the fact that road testing these cars is the best way of checking the suspension. You're looking for knocks, any unsteadiness in the tracking, veering to left or right. So really the road test should reveal any issues with the suspension. The problem you have with suspension then is the front is quite isolated. There's lots of bushing, as well as the rear. I think the rear there's just masses of bushes. So actually finding a knock or the cause of the knock or the bump is quite difficult, and the bushes aren't cheap. Maybe I think the rear bushes start at £30 each, and it's just the quantity of them that'll get you, plus the labour of actually doing the job. Having said that, it could be as simple as tie rod ends, etc. So other than doing the road test, then you need to take a look at the tyres. Looking at tyres then, you can see if there's any sort of uneven wear that might indicate tracking or suspension wear. Do the same for the rear. If you have the ability to take a jack or a way of raising the vehicle up, the best way is actually to jack the vehicle up and shake each wheel, and you should feel or hear any movement in the suspension. Particularly at the front, you're looking at these upper wishbones, those orange things you can see there, the upper wishbone bushes. You've got the lower shock bush there, anti-roll bar links, and obviously lower arm bushes. You don't tend to get much problem with the lower arm. It's mainly the links and the upper wishbone at the front. At the rear then, it's just, if not more complicated. You've got tyre bar links, lots of bushes. You can't really see them that far into the vehicle. The whole diff is isolated by bushes. I mean, it's where you get the ride quality from, but it's very difficult to diagnose bumps and knocks. So road test is the best way. Transmission then, gearboxes. I mean, these gearboxes are quite reliable, but they do need to have oil and filter changes. The early ZF boxes are susceptible to breakdown at reasonable mileages. I mean, 80,000 miles is about the time these things seem to show up. So having a service will give you a bit more confidence. The fact that it's been serviced might help you along that bit. But if you were to replace the gearboxes, these again, second hand, before fitting, are £500 to £600 each. So you need to make sure on your test drive that there's no lumpy gear changes, no strange noises, and both the normal drive or fully automatic and the left hand side of the box, the manual sort of gear holding side of the J gate is working as well. Finally, as part of transmission, you can look for leaks from the diff. You should see here, that's the bottom of the diff here. If you've got any seal leaks, you'll see that's wet or oily. Obviously seals again aren't very expensive, but it's getting at it and get it done. The labour involved in getting the diff out is quite a lot. A bit of advice before we get into the nitty gritty then. Before you even look at buying a car, do your research. There's lots of information about these cars on the internet. For example, in the UK, you look at the MOT history, back I think it's about 10 years worth of MOTs. And there'll be lots of indicators that will either give you a warm feeling or might warn you off. I think in the US there's something called Carfax, which does a similar thing. Obviously, before you actually go out to view the car, you can speak to the owner, get some idea of why he's selling it, how he's treated the car, how long he's had it. So it's save you a wasted journey. Finally, before we get into the detail, documentation. So in the glove box, you should find the car's manuals. You need to make sure all this is complete, because if these aren't complete, they cost a lot of money to replace. And it gives, again, some indication of the car's history. Has it been looked after? So you should have this leather-bound manual holder with manuals in, and a black pouch with lots of other Jaguar documentation, including the service record. Obviously, full service record is ideal. I mean, if ideally you're going to buy it off an enthusiast, you're going to end up with a folder like this, full of previous bills. I mean, everyone is going to tell you it's had thousands spent on it, and literally they probably have. I mean, they've been to Jag, it costs you £100 an hour or something stupid. In my case, I bought my car and it had a bucket, literally, boxes and boxes of these magazines. So you can give you a good indication that these cars have been looked after by their previous owners. The best bit of advice I would give is to buy this book. This is Jaguar XK8, the Essential Buyer's Guide. I find this book quite invaluable, but it gives you lots of lists and lots of pointers and details. This is a good guide to have in your hand when you're going to view a car for the first time. To summarise the best way to inspect your prospective new Jaguar XK8, then we've got B.E.S.T method: body, engine, suspension, transmission. So body, you're looking £250, £300 per panel if you've got damage. Underbody, the welding required is fairly inexpensive, but access is a problem. You've got to take front or rear suspension out. Labour cost is the biggest issue there. Engines then, if you need to rebuild your engine or put a new engine in, you're looking at £600 just for the replacement engine. Then you've got the fitting costs. There's also other issues you may need to maintain on the car, which we've covered. Suspension then, obviously this is a very a soft riding car. It's fully isolated suspension, lots of bushes that can go wrong. Again, quite complicated stuff, so you need to make sure everything doesn't have any knocks or bangs. Transmission then, very costly, another £600 item plus fitting. So there you go. Interiors, not really a lot to worry about. So there you go. Bit of an idea what to look for and what costs you need to avoid if you're going to buy a Jaguar XK8. I would recommend doing it, particularly if you're a hobby mechanic and you can do a lot of the work yourself. Anyway, that's enough for me blithering on. It's been a hot day in Wales today. I'm sweating and I'm going to get a cup of tea. See you in the next video. Please like, comment, share and subscribe for more XK videos.